If you're looking for some high energy, high impact, edge of your seat fights, then Baki the Grappler may be the right anime for you, so stay tuned. What's up everybody, I'm BobSamurai, the ultimate disciple, and if you're looking for some amazing anime to watch, some engaging anime topics, anime news videos, anime lists, you can find them all here because I'm bringing you all 4 new videos every week, so be sure to subscribe. Baki the Grappler is the story of Baki, who's a grappler, and he wants to become the strongest fighter in the world, basically meaning he's got to beat his father because his dad is actually the strongest person in the world in the series, and it gets pretty intense. But Baki himself, even though in the beginning of the story he's only about 13 or 14 years old, he's still no pushover. Let me tell you this, Baki the Grappler pulls no punches, and I'm not just talking about the character, I'm talking about the series as a whole, because you'll find that this series is fight after fight after fight, all the way from the beginning up until the end, and it is just non-stop brutality here. Like in the first episode, you've got Baki, 13 years old, runs and jumps right into the middle of a basketball court that is filled with 100 gang members with weapons, and he is just in there barehanded. And his mentality going into that fight is, I think I can beat them, or I know I can beat them because all I have to do is fight 4 of them at once over and over and over again, because that's all that can actually gang up on him at once. He gets surrounded by all these people and only 4 people can actually attack him at once, so he's just got to withstand several 4-on-1 fights, which he is just going wild there, elbowing him, kneeing him, just punching him right in the face. It is just so fun watching this from the very first episode. One of the most memorable parts, there are so many memorable parts from this anime here that when I think about brutal anime fights, many of the times that sends me back to Baki the Grappler. I don't think this is going to come as a shock to anybody when I say this, but Baki the Grappler puts the story in the backseat, and the fights and action are easily its bread and butter, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't have it any other way. However, there is a fair amount of character progression here as the story continues, because Baki starts off 13, and I think it ends when he's about 17, though you wouldn't know it. Looking at the difference between Baki at the beginning and the end of the show, it's basically the difference between looking at me and looking at an action figure of John Cena, where he's like all pumped up and muscular, and they really went overboard with all the muscles there. It's really crazy looking at the combination or the comparison between the characters in the beginning and the end. As far as personal development goes, Baki really undergoes your typical shonen development here, where he defeats an enemy and he actually learns something from them, and the enemy actually becomes his friend, which is nothing that's too different. It's not bad because it's like plenty of other shows. It works, and I felt that it worked for the story here. Now, what kept me so invested in watching Baki the Grappler and just glued to the edge of my seat when watching this was how intense the fights were. And this is not only just now, but this is my second time watching this show. I felt the same way when I saw this even before I started doing YouTube videos, and I've seen so many anime since then, and the fights are still that good. And basically what they did, what I enjoy so much about the fights here, are that they borderline on the supernatural. And if you're the type of person you love the intensity that anime brings in terms of fights, but you're tired of superpowers, you're tired of kamehamehas, you're tired of aura and spirit energy and stuff like that, then Baki the Grappler is going to be just right for you if you're not looking to get all the way into the technical side of fighting, boxing, martial arts, mixed martial arts or anything like that. Then Baki is going to be that perfect middle ground, because you'll have Baki who starts off fighting against 100 untrained gang members, moving on to world-class martial artists, moving on to people even stronger and stronger than that, and it just gets to the point where every single fight we're seeing so many just unreal things happening. These characters are taking so much damage, the attacks that they're doing are just hurting so much that any of these characters, if this was real life, they would die within one hit of these fights, and it's just showing you how intense some of these fights can be, and I was really digging it. Now, I want to tell you about 2 things here. I'm not going to spoil you to any of the outcomes of any of the fights here. Did Baki win this fight? Did Baki lose this fight? I want to tell you about 2 incredible feats of strength that Baki's father did. First of all, Baki's father called up the prime minister of whatever country and said, "I'm coming there for you. Get your army ready. Be prepared, I'll be there at this time." He waits out front of the gates until the army is all set up and everything, and he just starts taking them on barehanded all by himself. Then there's another time where Baki's dad, he's getting ready to fight, and there's an earthquake. He punches the ground so hard that the earthquake stops. He tells this earth, "You better stop that, I'm busy right now, you can do that later." You know, he does that, he is that powerful, and that's his father. That is who Baki is trying to overcome. Yes, those abilities are supernatural to do that, but at the same time, they're not aura attacks, they're not kamehamehas, they're not any sort of like spirit waves or anything like that. This is just raw strength taken to like just supernatural levels, and that's what I liked about the show. Now, I know what you must be thinking, Baki the Grappler has got to be this total must-watch anime experience here, but unfortunately, everything that I've said about this anime only regards its first quarter of the series. That's only the first half of the first season, and this is why it took me so long to do the review. It was difficult to even force myself to watch the rest of season 2 here. It was so monotonous, and this is the only anime that I think I'll ever give this suggestion to. The first quarter of the anime, must watch. Very, very good, if you're looking for like everything that I've said already. As for the last 3 quarters, I would recommend dropping it. I've never recommended anybody to only watch the first quarter of a series before, and this is a first, but trust me, that's how you're gonna feel about it. That's how I felt about Baki. You know, I've already seen over 700 anime, but I felt the same way about it when I had only seen 20 anime series and watched that, because I found Baki the Grappler, thankfully, very early on, and I really enjoyed it. So the thing about the rest of the series is you'll know when it has this massive shift, because it goes from the goal of Baki trying to outdo his dad and be stronger than his father, and it switches over to being a tournament fighter in this underground ring, and it's just not fun anymore. I would go as far as saying maybe you're going to enjoy the entire first season, because like the second half of the first season is going to be inside of that tournament, but the second season, definitely, you will probably want to drop that, because basically Baki, he's already on top on the second season, and so many of the fights there is basically going to be random tertiary characters fighting against each other, and they're going to try and sell us the backstory of all these characters. We don't care. We know these characters are working so hard to come up and get the gold and become the champion, but you know they're not going to beat Baki. You know they're not going to beat him. And then it's just not fun anymore. It just felt very monotonous, and it feels so weird to say this because it still stays true to being total non-stop fights, but it's just not fun anymore. Now, I would also recommend taking what I say with a grain of salt here. Personally, if you are a big fan of tournament fighters, then you may enjoy the second season of Baki the Grappler, but me, I realized during my second watch through, or maybe even third watch through of Yu Yu Hakusho, that I'm just not into tournament fighters. I enjoyed the Dark Tournament saga only for its big bad fights, you know, that Toguro fight at the end, and of course some of the key fights here and there, but as a whole, I'm just not into tournament fighters, and that's what Baki the Grappler becomes. Now, as for my overall thoughts, you already know how I feel about this anime. Watch the first quarter, maybe even the first half, but you probably will want to drop the second season of this and just move on and watch something you think you would enjoy much better than this. And I really hate doing that too, because I personally don't like when people review an anime and they say, oh, well, this little tidbit, this little gem of something that happens during one random episode makes the entire anime series worth watching. I don't believe that one bit, but thankfully for me, thankfully for all of you, the amazing parts of Baki the Grappler are right there in the beginning, and you don't have to watch like a whole bunch of boring episodes to get to the good part of something. Like, the good part is right here in the beginning, and the rest of it, you can just skip it. So what do you think about Baki the Grappler? Let me know in the comments section below. If you agree with what I say, let me know about that as well. Even if you disagree, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, you're still watching the video at the end, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, because I'm bringing you all 4 new videos every single week with anime news, reviews, lists, and discussions. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have an awesome night, everybody. These videos are made possible thanks to viewer support over on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the channel, vote for which anime I review, and even watch it with us on Discord, head on over to Patreon and consider a monthly $5 donation. I'd like to give a special thanks to Marcus, the Undefeated Magician, Anageddon, Warpbait, Ben Johnson, and Light Lelouch for going above and beyond in their support of the channel. Thank you all so much.